as Webb literally spit on the judge.
Officials say he attacked Superior Court Judge Cinda Fox during a break in the proceedings. Police say 28-year-old David Paradiso left the witness stand, approached Fox from behind, and began attacking her with a cutting instrument.
This is Judge Mary Kay Holthus, who was presiding over Deobra Redden's case. Redden's being charged with violating his probation in an attempted battery case in Las Vegas, Nevada. The judge was all set to read out the sentencing for Deobra Redden.
Time that he gets a taste of something else, because I just can't with that history. In accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, this court...
Deobra Redden was no stranger to the justice system.
3 felonies, gross, 9 misdemeanors, multiple DVs.
I'm in a better place in my mind. I'm in a close mind. I have a support system. I just got hired as a teacher for, a union.
He had already pleaded guilty to an attempted battery charge and could face a stretch of up to 3 years in prison if convicted. That is exactly why he was in Judge Mary Kay Holthus's courtroom in the first place. But that single case was just the tip of the iceberg. His record stretched back years with at least 3 felony convictions and several misdemeanors, many of them tied to violence. Apart from that, Redden had some mental health challenges. According to court filings and multiple reports, he had been diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. The combination of this and his violent past created a dangerous mix. However, on January 3, 2024, Redden didn't show agitation as the case began. Then he tried to plead his case in the courtroom.
Based on my criminal history, I feel that I shouldn't be sent to prison for a second time.
Have you looked at your criminal history?
The judge's response was different from what he expected.
Time that he gets a taste of something else, because I just can't with that history. In accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, this court...
Redden didn't like this response. He was so dissatisfied that he did this.
According to court documents, Redden punched Judge Holthus in the head and pulled her hair, and he punched a corrections officer multiple times and spit in another person's face.
Within 2 seconds, Deobra was seen flying towards the judge without warning. The court bailiffs instantly jumped in to help Judge Holthus. They managed to finally pull Redden away from the judge. The struggle was intense. One court-martial suffered a dislocated shoulder and a severe head laceration requiring 25 stitches. The chaos lasted only seconds, but the impact was severe. Judge Holthus was escorted from the courtroom for medical attention. Redden was arrested on the spot and charged with 7 new felonies, including attempted murder of a judicial officer and multiple counts of battery on a protected person. This was Redden's response through his attorney.
He's also pleading not guilty based upon reason of insanity. Just like everybody else, and looking at the video, I thought Mr. Redden was either out of his mind or on drugs at the time of this incident. But after extended discussions with Mr. Redden, Ms. Springer, and other family members, I came to find out that he suffered from severe paranoid schizophrenia.
Redden still made another appearance before Judge Mary Kay Holthus. The judge carried out the same sentence she was about to give before the attack.
I am making my calendar page from that day an exhibit for the court. Nothing's been changed, indicating the sentence I intended to impose.
In the end, Deobra Redden got 26 to 65 years in a Nevada prison for his shocking attack on the judge. Deobra Redden got an additional sentence for attacking the judge. But what about a defendant who wouldn't back down even when held in contempt of court? This is Judge Jennifer Edwards, who was presiding over the case of Melissa Hardwick, who's appealing a domestic violence protection order in Kentucky. The judge's duty was maintaining law and order, but what happened next was a whole new level of disorder.
I haven't done anything to this court. I haven't done anything to him.
She'll be arrested for contempt
It
of
doesn't
court.
make any difference.
Melissa Hardwick's case involved a domestic violence protection order her estranged husband had requested, a dispute that was closely tied to custody and parenting rights over their children. On that day, in Wayne County, Kentucky, the courtroom was thick with tension as the hearing began. Judge Jennifer tried to calm Hardwick down, but things took a turn when Melissa decided to face the judge instead of her case.
I haven't done anything to this court. I haven't done anything to him.
She'll be arrested
It
for
doesn't
contempt
make-
of
It doesn't
court.
make any difference.
You will serve 10 days for contempt of court.
The judge's decision to hold her in contempt was one that did not sit well with her. And then, Melissa suddenly lost it. The courtroom erupted into chaos. The judge was getting Melissa charged for contempt of court. In a second, she had sprang across the courtroom, trying to get over the judge's desk. The bailiffs had to intervene quickly to hold her down and keep Judge Jennifer from getting harmed. Despite the bailiffs' quick intervention, Hardwick didn't back down easily. She went on to make matters worse for herself.
Wait and see. You. You'll be sad when it happens, Jennifer.
Apart from losing her appeal, Melissa Hardwick got further punishment for her action.
Melissa Hardwick receives 120 days in jail for contempt of court.
Judge Jennifer Edwards may have escaped Melissa's attack narrowly, but what happens when the judge himself takes care of the mess?
As Newsom throws more paper at him, Judge Rhymes single-handedly pins him onto the desk.
This is Judge Aubrey Rhymes. On January 7th, 2021, he was presiding over the case of Sidney Newsom, charged with domestic violence. Unknown to him, the accused had a surprise waiting for him. The setting was a justice court hearing in Pike County, Mississippi. Sidney Newsom, a 27-year-old man from Magnolia, Mississippi, was in Judge Aubrey Rhymes' courtroom for his hearing. At first, Newsom appeared calm. As the session progressed, Newsom's calm demeanor shifted after some tense exchanges with the transport officer. The mood in the courtroom started getting charged. The arrival of his family did not help matters either. In fact, it did the exact opposite. If the mood in the courtroom had been tense before, it was now volatile. What happened next would shake the courtroom to its core. One moment Newsom was signing the court document, and then… Newsom ignored orders to leave, and suddenly, Newsom loses it. The violence intensified as Newsom overpowered a transport officer. Faced with escalating aggression, Judge Rhymes decided to take charge, not just over court proceedings, but physically. His family then entered the fray, with his brother rushing forward, adding to the chaos. Additional officers had to quickly respond to restore control. With order finally restored, it was time to look at the damage that was done. Newsom received a new charge for contempt of court and got an additional sentence of 48 hours in prison. The prosecutor didn't file assault charges against Newsom for his attack on Judge Rhymes. Newsom was the wrong defendant to mess with, but Judge Aubrey Rhymes held his own. What happens when a judge does not even anticipate an attack? This is District Judge Vanessa Dixon presiding over the case of Bass Webb, who was charged with 2 counts of attempted murder in Paris, Kentucky. When Bass Webb walked into a Bourbon County courtroom, He was no stranger to Kentucky justice. He was 30 years old and had been in and out of prison for different charges. This time, he was facing 2 counts of attempted murder. Prosecutors said that in 2009, he used his car as a weapon, aiming straight at 2 jail employees outside the Bourbon County Jail. They survived. Webb was charged. On Judgment Day in Bourbon County, Webb pleaded not guilty to the charges. Judge Dixon, who was in charge, decided she could no longer continue with the case and recused herself. Her reason was a conflict of interests. She knew the deputies involved personally. A wise decision, but not everyone felt that way, especially not Webb, who felt she was messing with him. She was still in the process of recussing herself when Webb did this.
There's no way I'm going to try this case or have any further proceedings, or I have to see you for one further setting. Set preliminary hearing next week.
His reaction brought immediate consequences. Judge Dixon didn't hesitate to order charges against him for contempt of court. But Webb didn't stop there. He started a riot when he went to jail. He didn't stop at the jail either. Years later, he was brought to court again. Judge Vanessa Dixon was no longer the one presiding over his case. The judge who did faced difficulties.
Mr. Webb, do you want to come forward?
When the judge asks Webb to come forward, he remains seated and smiles.
And the judge also faced the cold intimidation tactics employed by the convict in court. As for Bass Webb, he was formally sentenced to 37 years in prison for trying to run over the 2 Bourbon County Jail employees. He also got a sentence of 50 years in prison in September after pleading guilty to murder. The sentence was connected to the death of his estranged girlfriend, Bria Runewich. Webb was also soon in court for another case, this time for the murder of another former girlfriend, Sabrina Marie Vaughn, who disappeared in 2003. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. Judge Vanessa may have been spat on the face, but what happens when a defendant would stop at nothing to act on a deadly resolve to physically harm a judge?
Officials say he attacked Superior Court Judge Cinda Fox during a break in the proceedings.
This is Judge Cinda Fox, presiding over the case of David Paradiso, who was accused of murder in Stockton, California. What no one in the courtroom knew was that the murder trial of David Paradiso would soon make national headlines for all the wrong reasons.
Paul, keep that area clear. We got somebody else coming out.
Paradiso, 29, had stabbed his girlfriend, Eileen Pelt, brutally until she died. The evidence was clear. She'd been found with fatal neck wounds, dumped near a roadside in Amador County. It was March 4th, 2009. Paradiso was in the witness stand being cross-examined. Unknown to the court, he had managed to smuggle a cutting instrument into the courtroom, something that shouldn't have happened.
Say they're not sure how Paradiso obtained the weapon, but family members say they had warned deputies they thought Paradiso had some sort of cutting device.
With Paradiso still in the witness box, his mother left the courtroom. And then
he went for the judge, and at that time, then he began twisting a knife and stabbing motion and twisting the knife against the judge's neck.
The scene was chaotic. However, help was close at hand. Detective Eric Bradley, the lead investigator on the original murder case, was in the courtroom observing the proceedings, and he did something that would end up being very fatal.
Police Detective Eric Bradley is the officer who fatally shot Paradiso. Officials say he's been placed on administrative leave while the shooting is investigated.
This is exactly what happened from eyewitnesses.
David Paradiso was sitting on the witness stand, and his face and the look of him, he was completely a different color. He just didn't look like the same person. And when the prosecuting attorney started to interview him, it was like the questions that his response to the questions was totally out of left field, 180-degree left field. Like, he started making connotations about the individual, the girl he had murdered, and he also started making statements that she deserved to die, and then the courtroom became so disruptive.
That was the first sign that David Paradiso had lost his cool.
Thereafter, I told the judge, I think we have to have a hearing out of the presence of the jury. So the judge then had the bailiff, Willis, to go out and secure a room for the jury. Willis came back. Paradiso was still sitting in his chair and found the room for the jury. So when the jury stood up, he stood up. And there was a deputy standing between the jury box and the witness. Nobody standing between the witness, Mr. Paradiso, and the judge.
With no one between Paradiso and the judge, an officer was alert.
Officer told him, sit down. So Paradiso seemed like confused. I don't know if it was intentional or not. And he put his hands in his pocket and then he began to sit down. And he stood up again. He also said, sit down. And I yelled across the courtroom. He says, hey, Dave, sit down.
But Paradiso did not sit down.
Now at that time, he backed up against the wall and pulled out an object from his right pocket. And it was long. And I thought maybe it was a pen similar to this with the pointed end. And just about that time, he looked at the jury, then he looked at the bailiff, and then he went for the judge.
Paradiso was hell-bent on ending the judge until help came along.
Judge's bench, and then that's when the officer reached over me, reached around me somehow, and I saw the gun pressed into the Paradiso's chest, and it was discharged, shot.
One of the eyewitnesses had this to say about Officer Bradley and the incident.
Officer Bradley had the weapon, and I saw David Paradiso fall on the judge. But as far as I'm concerned, Officer Bradley is my hero because Judge Fox her life was in danger. It really was.
Although Bradley contained Paradiso before he could inflict more harm, the defendant had already caused enough damage. The courtroom was immediately locked down as emergency personnel rushed to the scene. Judge Fox had to get immediate treatment. For David Paradiso, the law took a harsh measure, leaving him dead. As for Judge Cinda Fox, she made a full recovery from her injuries, but she decided it was time to retire, still emotionally scarred from the incident. Judge Cinda Fox might have been stabbed, but she survived. But what happens when a judge is not as fortunate for messing with the wrong defendant? This is Judge Harold Haley, who was presiding over the case of James McClain, who was on trial for assaulting a corrections officer at the Marin County Civic Center in San Rafael, California. What followed next was simply terrifying.
And I was here maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and the whole group of hostages and suspects, with the exception of one, went out through this door here.
The accused, James McClain, a San Quentin inmate, had stabbed a prison guard while serving a term in prison. 2 other inmates, Rachel McGee and William Christmas, were called in as witnesses that fateful day. However, everything all started with George L. Jackson getting into trouble.
Mrs. Jackson, how long has your son been in prison?
Since 1961.
And how did that all start?
He was with a fellow who arrived at a service station in Los Angeles. They were in his old car together, and according to a witness, a young man who worked at the filling station, he said that this man came in with a gun and robbed him, that he didn't see my son at all.
With George Jackson in prison, the dominoes started to fall. On January 13, 1970, 3 black prisoners at Soledad Prison in Monterey County were shot by a white guard during a fighting incident. The shootings were ruled justifiable homicide. However, just after that, a white guard was killed in what authorities believed was retaliation. 3 black inmates were charged with his murder. After they were charged with murder, the 3 black prisoners became known as the Soledad Brothers. Their case became a movement cause among radical groups here. George L. Jackson was among the Soledad Brothers, and reports say his brother was passionate about getting him freed. August 7, 1970 was the fateful day. Inside the Marin County Civic Center, Judge Haley was presiding over the trial of James Unknown to anyone, the next few hours were going to make national headlines. Jonathan Jackson, just 17 years old and brother of imprisoned Black Panther, George Jackson, entered the courtroom with a long raincoat despite the summer heat. He was carrying 3 guns, all registered to Angela Davis, a UCLA professor and Black Panther supporter. Jackson sat with the spectators for a few moments watching the proceeding, and suddenly...
And looking to the spectator side of the courtroom, saw a tall, light-complected Negro with bushy hair pointing a handgun at the back of the neck of Lieutenant Dixon of San Quentin Correctional Force. Everybody hit the floor except some of the lady jurors. This stranger came forward and passed the handgun to the defendant McLean, who put the gun on Judge Haley.
The operation freed 3 other inmates apart from John McLean, who was standing trial.
The intervener withdrew from the bag, a large bag, an automatic rifle, covered all the correctional personnel, and at gunpoint they were forced to unshackle the witness McGee, who had been on the witness stand. McGee was then armed too. And I think it was McGee who was sent to the holding cell to liberate the 3 remaining witnesses who were under guard in the holding cell.
The attackers forced Judge Haley to call the sheriff, trying to negotiate the release of the Soledad brothers. Road flares were taped to Haley's neck, but then replaced by a sawed-off shotgun taped under his chin. Then the group took 4 hostages: Judge Haley, Deputy District Attorney Gary Thomas, and 2 jurors. They forced everyone into a rented Ford van and drove toward the US 101 freeway, demanding the release of George Jackson and the other Soledad brothers. The moment they left the Civic Center, the situation became a full-scale emergency.
I secured a shotgun from one of our units that was on the street and advised him again to relay via radio to the office just precisely what we had, and advising him again to close off the area.
As the kidnappers tried to escape, McLean fired at officers from the moving van. The police returned fire. Judge Haley suffered fatal wounds from both the shotgun taped to his neck and a pistol shot to the chest. But he was not the only victim. Jonathan Jackson, Christmas, and McLean all died in the shootout. Deputy District Attorney Gary Thomas was paralyzed for life by a bullet through his spine. Juror Maria Elena Graham was shot in the arm. The only surviving attacker, Russell McGee, was seriously wounded. Angela Davis, whose guns were used in the attack, became the subject of a nationwide manhunt. She fled California, using disguises and false identification. The FBI finally captured her in New York City on October 13, 1970. Davis was charged with conspiracy, kidnapping, and homicide. After a highly publicized trial, she was found not guilty on all counts in 1972. Russell McGee pleaded guilty to aggravated kidnapping, receiving a life sentence. He was finally released in July 2023 after 67 years in prison. The Marin County Civic Center shooting wasn't the end. The Weather Underground was formed in response to what they considered police brutality. Their activism involved planning bombs at specific public places. The bombings continued throughout 1971. They placed 2 bombs at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. Both of them exploded on March 1st. After the mysterious murder of George Jackson in August, the group attacked 3 offices of the California prison system. The violence surrounding the Soledad brothers case continued for years, even after Judge Harold had paid for it with his life. Judge Harold lost his life facing danger in the line of duty, facing a defendant that was bad for him. But what happens when a judge really goes out of his way to mess with a defendant? This time, a lawyer. This is Judge John C. Murphy, who had a hard time presiding over a case in his court and decided that he could, in fact, take the law literally into his own hands.
If I had a rock, I would throw it at you right now. Stop pissing me off. Just sit down. I'll take care of it. I don't need your help. Sit down.
In June 2014, Brevard County Judge John Murphy was handling routine first appearance hearings in Viera, Florida. These hearings are often brief. Defendants are told their charges, bail is considered, and schedules are set. One of the cases that morning involved a misdemeanor battery. Public Defender Andrew Weinstock was representing the accused.
2 charges, assault and resisting. You have the public, Mr.
Where Public Defender Andrew Weinstock and his client are appearing before Judge John Murphy, whose voice you hear.
Public Defender, what do you want to do?
It was a simple scheduling procedure, but it soon turned into a heated dispute.
Public Defender, what do you want to do?
But they filed?
They have.
I'm not waiving.
All right, what do you want to do?
What do you want to do? I'm not waiving. You want to set it for trial? Set it for trial.
In the middle of the exchange that the court was forced to watch, the tension was boiling over. The 2 men were not budging.
If I had a rock, I would throw it at you right now.
You know,
Stop pissing me off. Just sit down. I'll take care of it. I don't need your help.
No, you know what? I'm the public defender. I have a right to be here, and I have a right to stand and represent my clients.
And then,
if you want to fight, let's go out back and I'll just beat your...
They both head to the hallway behind the courtroom, just out of the view of the court's cameras. Believe it or not, they get into a physical altercation.
the court had to bear witness to this breakdown of law and order. After the scuffle in the hallway, Judge Murphy returned alone, winded and out of breath.
Thank you.
I will catch my breath eventually. Man, I'm an old man.
His public defender opponent, however, was nowhere in sight. Judge Murphy was clearly pissed. The public defender refused to be intimidated, and then the judge challenged him to a fight. Bizarrely, the fight happened. This altercation, caught on audio, could not be ignored and quickly sparked a judicial review. The Florida Judicial Qualifications Commission found Murphy guilty of violating multiple judicial canons, including failing to maintain dignity and courtesy toward legal colleagues. The panel recommended a 4-month suspension, a fine up to $50,000, a public reprimand, and continued mental health therapy. But that was not the end. The Florida Supreme Court also had their say. Murphy was permanently removed from his judgeship. Judge John Murphy messed with the wrong defendant and got penalized for it. But what happens when a defendant threatens bodily harm against a judge overseeing his own case? This is Michael Ray, a defendant standing before a judge in Jefferson County, Kentucky. It was supposed to be a quick bond hearing. Standard procedure, nothing unusual. But what unfolded inside that Louisville courtroom turned into one of the most shocking and defiant displays ever caught on a courthouse camera.
The county's requesting $25,000 full cash behind all charges. Looks like the You think that's funny?
I think that's hilarious.
Ray, 29 years old, had been brought before the judge after being charged with second-degree assault and domestic violence. He also was charged with terroristic threatening and assault in the second degree. According to police, he'd attacked his girlfriend, leaving her with visible injuries. He had prior run-ins with the law and was no stranger to the courtroom. But that morning, his temper would make him infamous. The hearing began like any other. The judge was reading out the bonds and the amount that Michael had to cough up. And then...
The county's requesting $25,000 full cash behind all charges. Looks like the You think that's funny?
I think that's hilarious.
Ray sniggered at the amount being called out by the judge. And when the judge asked why he was laughing, he said, "It's hilarious." The judge punished him quickly.
Your Honor, I think...
All right, so bond is $50,000. No bail credit.
His bond was doubled immediately, the worst thing that could have happened to him. Wrong. It was not the worst thing, as the judge was showing some restraint.
He's lucky I didn't hold him in contempt. Yeah. Thinks these are funny charges.
But a minute later, Michael quickly made the matter worse for himself.
Bring him in. I'm holding him in contempt. Adding charges.
Michael Ray also flipped off the judge who brought the full weight of the law to bear on him.
Sir, I'm holding you in contempt for what you did.
I don't really give a for holding me in.
And so...
You're just making it worse, man. You shut up, man. You are
all right, you can take him back. 100 days to serve.
100 days to serve? Okay.
Yep.
For what? Because of 2 EPOs and
He's done.
The judge's punishment did nothing to deter Michael Ray, who decided the deputy also had to get involved. But that was not all.
I think we need to.
Yeah.
Can we bring him back?
He's
I want him
gotta be
charged with
charged.
threatening.
Michael threatened the judge with bodily harm. The judge quickly added the charges, all amounting to 10 charges. Thereafter, he was led away. Michael Ray is the kind of defendant no judge wants in their court. For his insults and threats, he was punished. But what about Evan Paul McCullough, who preferred actions over words and made a lunge for the judge? This is Evan Paul McCullough, 31. He is in court before Judge Robbie in North Carolina, awaiting a hearing on multiple felony assault and domestic violence charges. McCullough has a record of volatile behavior, and deputies are already on edge. He was already known for charging at deputies, but Judge Robbie was ready to take on the case. However, what happened next would shock everyone inside. McCullough was being held in the Marin County Jail since 2023 and has repeatedly been deemed incompetent to stand trial. This was due to mental health illness. According to reports, the inmate has reportedly battered multiple deputies and caused repeated disruptions while incarcerated. And as he was led into the court in handcuffs, the deputies were on high alert. McCullough is dressed in the standard orange jumpsuit, flanked by 2 deputies. The hearing begins quietly. Judge Robbie reminds him of the charges: assault on a female, resisting arrest, and violation of a protection order. Then, as the judge begins to speak about bond, McCullough mutters something under his breath, a string of curses. The judge warns him to stop. Despite the caution, once McCullough moved, he crashes the lectern to the floor and dashes towards the judge. Before he even gets to the judge, he spits at the judge. Then he spits a second time when he is tackled to the floor. Deputies react instantly, cutting him off before he can get to the judge and knocking him to the floor. Before long, there are over 6 deputies pinning McCullough to the floor before he can cause more harm. The judge pushes his seat back and away from the inmate, which is the most precaution he could take. Luckily for him, the deputies are up to the task. McCullough was immediately charged with attempted assault on a government official, resisting public officers, and contempt of court. The sheriff's office later confirmed that he was transferred to a maximum security facility pending psychiatric evaluation. Judge Robbie was saved from the onslaught of an inmate by alert deputies. But what about Dolores Shyness, who had the court and the judge laughing at her antics? This is Dolores Shyness, an 80-year-old woman standing before Judge John Hurley inside the Broward County courtroom in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It was supposed to be a quick bond hearing. Standard procedure, nothing special. But what unfolded inside that Florida courtroom turned into one of the most unexpected and unforgettable moments ever captured on a courthouse camera.
Ma'am, I'm going to find probable cause. I'm releasing you ROR to pretrial release. You're going to have a GPS ankle monitor on. That's going to ensure that you have no contact directly or indirectly with the protected party, Abraham Shyness. You are not allowed to call him, text him, email him. You are to stay 500 feet from him at all times. That's where he lives, where he works, anywhere in between.
The judge began the hearing the usual way, by announcing her release on pretrial supervision. She would wear a GPS ankle monitor and stay 500 feet away from her ex-husband, Abraham Shyness, the protected party in a domestic violence injunction. But that was not all.
I don't particularly feel like keeping an 80-year-old woman in the jail who has no criminal record. But this is your second warning.
The judge emphasized giving her a second chance. Then he let her take over.
Don't go around him again. All right?
Say something, Your Honor.
Then came her moment.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Mr. Shyness, Abraham Arthur Shyness, and I have been legally divorced for 31 years, and I have the papers to prove it.
Got it.
We both resided at 2102 Lucaya Bend, and he paid for the apartment entirely. His assumption is because he paid for the apartment, he's entitled to do as he pleases.
Do you have an attorney, ma'am? Do you have an attorney?
Only pro bono from the case of earlier, last week.
An apartment was at the center of the case. Dolores explained that her ex believed paying for the apartment gave him control. When the judge tried to steer her back, she fired off.
I haven't bothered him for 31 years. Why would I bother him now?
The court proceedings soon turned into banter.
That's the $63,000 question, ma'am.
Used to be 64.
Their exchange caused laughter in the courtroom, but Dolores was not done. When asked to swear she'd obey the order, she lifted her hand.
I swear to God and all that's Tony on a stack of Bibles, I will never go near him, talk to him, call him.
Her antics made the judge ask.
Ma'am, have you ever thought of doing a stand-up routine? Have you ever thought about that?
Of course, Dolores had an answer.
I did. If you pay me good money, sweetheart, I'll be there. I'm really short of funds.
Ma'am, I gotta tell you something. You seem like you have a great wit about you.
I do, sir.
Yeah, so...
I mean, sweetheart, that's the only thing I have.
And the judge was really going along with her, commending her great wit. And the great wit came into play again.
There you go, ma'am. I gotta tell you, you brighten my day, ma'am. All right?
That's what the last guy said, and then he sued me.
The courtroom erupted one last time. The judge finally let her go with an ankle monitor and a promise to stay away from the last guy.